Hello and welcome. My name is Andrew Stump, and if you're new here, you don't know who I am. I'm a horn player, violinist, and violist, and I'm currently studying at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel and spending some time with me. And today, I am super duper excited because I have this glorious musical instrument that I just want to nerd out about and to show you today. So, for those of you who know me well, you know that I love all sorts of different weird and cool musical instruments. And as a horn player, horn players are notorious for being quite nerdy about these sorts of things. And I am no exception to that. But today, this is something really, really special. And I have had the opportunity to borrow this instrument for the last few weeks. I know I haven't been on the channel in a while now. The last month and a half has been pretty insane with just a lot of stuff going on for the end of the year. I'm also graduating in a couple weeks. It's crazy. But anyway, this, for any horn players watching the video, you already know exactly what this is. And you probably read the title and you probably know what it is because of that as well. But this is indeed a Vienna horn. And if you are not really sure what a Vienna horn is, it's essentially a horn that is historical. It's a historical design that sort of precedes the modern French horn that you would typically see today in most parts of the world. And but it's still not a relic of the past, because in its home of Vienna, Austria, hence its name, it's still alive, and they're still playing these horns over there. And after having had a chance to borrow this horn from our school's collection here at Curtis, I've been converted, and I really almost want to ditch the double horn. So, what is a Vienna horn? Well, essentially, it is kind of a sophisticated natural horn that has valves added to it to make it fully chromatic without the need to use hand horn technique. The bell is smaller than the bell that we would see on our modern horns, double horns, triple horns, all those sorts of modern instruments that you would see most of the time today. I do believe that the gauge of brass is slightly thinner as well. And of course, most notably, just sort of its appearance. I mean, what a beautiful looking instrument. I mean, it just looks awesome. In my opinion, I think it's a more beautiful and more attractive instrument than our modern French horn, as attractive as that instrument already is. But something about these lines, something about this loop here, this crook of tubing, and the way that the tubing is shaped and the way that it goes into the valves, it just looks beautiful. And this particular horn has also this really wonderful garland on the bell, which just looks great. This particular example I have here is a Vienna horn made by Robert Engel. Unfortunately, I can't tell you much about him as a maker. I haven't really studied up on his instrument making, but this is a very fine specimen of a Vienna horn. I've had so much fun playing on it, and actually just last week to when I'm recording this video, I actually performed on this horn on my graduation recital here at Curtis, and I got to perform the first movement of the Strauss Second Concerto on this horn. But yeah, so the Vienna horn has these different valves. These are called Pumpen valves, and essentially they work in a similar fashion to piston valves that we're used to seeing on like a trumpet or oftentimes tubas here in the United States as well. A valve that is a cylinder that moves up and down so that there are ports, pieces of tubing that are cut through the valve that as the valve raises and lowers, it aligns with pieces of tubing connected to the outside of the casing in order to allow the function of the valve, as we all know, which just adds an extra length of tubing to the instrument or not, and that's literally what valves do. It's just that. But this horn, the mechanics of these valves are a little bit different because unlike both piston valves and rotary valves, where kind of the tubing goes into the sides of the casing, on this horn the tubing actually goes out the top of the casing, which is a little bit unusual, and it does require the airstream to make a 90-degree turn inside here. But what is really interesting about this design as well is that, as you might be able to see here, this is the main tubing, which is literally a straight line that goes right through all of the valves. And so when you're playing on the open horn, there are no extra bends in the tubing. It's literally as if you're playing a natural horn, with no valves. It's as if they're not even there. But then, of course, when you depress a valve, then once the air gets to the first part of the valve, it turns upward into this piece of tubing. It goes into its appropriate valve slide, comes back, and then turns again and continues on its way. And technically speaking, this horn actually has 6 valves because, as you can see, there are 6 individual cylinders here, which are individual casings. There are 6 individual valves inside each one, but they function in pairs so that there are 2 actual valves that perform the function of one. So one is an intake valve, the other is an outtake or output, or however you choose to say that. So that's kind of the main thing that makes this horn quite different from the horns we're used to seeing, these valves. Another thing, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is this crook here, which is reminiscent of a natural horn. It's really kind of the same system. This is basically a natural horn crook that goes in here, and the lead pipe is embedded into the crook. So your mouthpiece receiver is here, the mouthpiece goes straight into it. And you could, if you had a set of crooks that were designed to fit this receiver here, you could put this horn in any key. You know, this is basically an F crook, but you could put in an E flat crook, or you could put an E, or a D, or whatever key you want. You could put this horn into that key. Now, of course, at that point, you're dealing with intonation problems because the valve slides are now the wrong length, and you might have to do some adjustment there. But especially for the keys of E and E flat, that shouldn't be too much of a problem because you should be able to just kind of pull the valve slides out a little bit and retune the horn, and you should be good to go. Now, unfortunately, we only have this one crook for this horn, and I haven't found any accounts of anybody actually doing that with a Vienna horn? Well, good evening. I haven't found any accounts of anyone actually doing that with a Vienna horn, with putting different keys of crooks on here, but it's certainly something that I would most certainly try if I had the chance to. So, what makes this horn unique? I mean, of course, sort of the elephant in the room is that this is not a double horn. It's how, regardless of how it's built, its construction and all that sort of things, what you most would be interested in as a player is how do you play it? And the answer to that is you play it like a single F horn, because that's what it is. It's literally basically a natural horn, a late classical natural horn in the key of F with pump and valves added to it. And it's your same, whole step, half step, minor third valve system. So all your normal finger combinations are the same, but you only have the standard 12-foot F horn on here. You don't have a B flat horn. So that does make it more difficult to play from a certain point of view, because accuracy in the high register, we all know accuracy becomes crazy when you're in the high register on an F horn. And I already made a video talking about this. My King single F horn, which I own, I have a video up on my channel about that from a few months ago if you want to go see that as well. But really, kind of this horn is really a true work of art, and is really kind of the best realization of why you would still want to play an F single horn. And especially in today's age, where we've become so obsessed with accuracy and perfection and evenness and uniformity of sound and all of this stuff, it's just unattractive to want to put yourself through that kind of risk of like, why would I play a single F horn? It just makes life more difficult. I might miss notes. But in my mind, when you can have an instrument that is just so cool, and I haven't gotten to the most important point of this horn yet, which is the sound, it's a no-brainer in my mind. Why would you not take the opportunity to play this amazing instrument? And so, as I mentioned, the sound, that is this horn's strongest element. If you go and listen to the Vienna Philharmonic, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The sound that their horn section gets is just incredible. Nobody sounds like that. It is a level of artistry and beauty and expression that I just haven't heard anywhere else. And I mean, you could argue that there are other horn players who, on an individual level, they bring more creativity and more expressivity to their playing, but there's something about the nature of this instrument itself that gives so much already. You have so much to work with in terms of color of sound, and that's what makes it so attractive to me. I feel so inspired when this instrument is in my hands. There is no, and I just don't want to put it down. Like there's no end to the amount of just amazing color and creativity of storytelling that I can get on this horn. And I think bringing it to a more concrete level of what is the sound of the Vienna horn, and of course I'm going to put a lot of clips of myself playing this horn so you can hear it in action in this video. There's a warmth in the sound, but there's also there's a quality that I don't have a word for. It's like I guess the best way I can describe it is it's the juice. That's a strange way of putting it, but there is something that is the juice, that is the sound of the Vienna horn. And no other type of horn I've ever played can do it. And I don't even necessarily know what it is. There's some sort of sparkle, some sort of liveliness. I don't know. There's something inside the sound of the Vienna horn that is just incredible. And also, one thing that I've noticed to a huge extent is that there's something about the double horn where it sounds the same in all dynamic ranges. The soft dynamics and the loud dynamics, yeah, there's a little bit of an edge in the loud dynamics that you don't have in the softs, but the central quality of the sound is the same in almost all of the dynamics. And there's something about that in our culture, here in the United States and maybe other places in the world too, where it's like we want this uniformity of sound where we can know what we're expecting. We can expect that it's going to be the same all the time, and it's as if, maybe I'm a little too opinionated on this, but it's almost as if our horn playing, and maybe it applies to a lot of other instruments as well, that it's kind of, we've become machines and we're kind of churning out just a very specific product that's designed to fit a specific mold. And the Vienna horn seems to really fly in the face of that whole ideal. That is, I think, one of the strongest points of the Vienna horn, is that in its soft dynamics, it sounds so dark and mysterious, but it does not sound dull. It's, in contrast, take a Con 8D or a big crispy style double horn that's known for its beautiful dark sound. Those horns always sound dark, and they run the risk of sounding a little bit dull. There's something slightly just uninteresting about the sound because it's just too much of one color, and it lacks the sparkliness that gives it sort of a lively sound. Whereas the Vienna horn, in its lowest dynamics, it sounds extremely dark, perhaps even more dark than a Con 8D, but it still is lively somehow. And then when you push it, as you push into the upper dynamics, the sound brightens, or not necessarily brightens, but it opens up and it gets this brilliance. And I notice that it almost has this searing, molten metal quality to the sound. Kind of similar to how I've heard it described that a rotary trumpet has a similar sort of concept. The difference between a rotary valved trumpet, like they play in European orchestras sometimes, versus a piston trumpet, like we see all the time here in the United States. I think the rotary valve trumpet combined with the Vienna horn is a perfect combination. They sort of mirror each other in sound concept, where it's this extremely lyrical sound, and it just has so much liveliness of color and so much variety of color. And the dynamics are another avenue to get into that world of color. So you're not locked into the same one all the time. That's, I think, what makes the Vienna horn so special. And that's what's made me enjoy playing it so much. And this, honestly, I'm going to find a way to actually play the Vienna horn professionally somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will. I'm going to find a way to invest in a Vienna horn of my own and play it, because I genuinely think the world needs to hear this instrument more. And it's become so special to me and so enjoyable, and I've loved learning how to play this instrument, as challenging as it is. It's so worth it, and it's so rewarding. So anyway, thank you so much for spending some time with me and hearing my little ramble about the Vienna horn. If there are any other cool, fun facts that I didn't talk about today, please feel free to drop them in the comments. If you have any other questions, please comment. If you have anything to say at all, please comment. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you'll subscribe if you like my content. And I do a lot of various random stuff here on this channel, so it's always going to be different, but I hope you enjoy it. And if you want to subscribe, be sure and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. And with that, I think that's about it. So I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.